And we're live.
And we're live.
Jinx, show me a Coke.
I thought you said it. I couldn't tell if you said it or not.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know if I was hearing myself back or if that was you.
So, I am enjoying a nice Upland Oktoberfest beer today.
Nice. I'm enjoying a nice wild cherry Pepsi in a can, slightly lower than room temperature.
Mine, fresh out of the fridge. Amazing. I'm leaning more toward the Upland Oktoberfest this year. You know, I'm a big Sam Adams guy.
Yeah.
But this Upland is very good. It might be even better than Sam Adams Oktoberfest, which I don't say that lightly. Because probably Boston Lager is like my favorite beer of all time.
Of all time?
Yeah. That's my go-to beer. That's what I drink.
Is it?
Like how some people like their Bud Light, you know? If I'm not experimenting or trying something different, it's Boston Lager.
Nice. I don't know that I really have a go-to beer or drink for that. I mean, I always change. I was drinking Grey Goose and cranberry juice Thursday night.
That can get dangerous quickly.
It did. Made for some entertaining football watching. I had 4 guys playing fantasy in that game. And when Brandon Marshall went down with that looked like a horrible knee injury, I almost cried.
So I'm going to really surprise you. I actually saw part of that. They had, I don't know if you noticed this or not, but you could watch the NFL game on Twitter live.
Yeah, that was the first time this year.
Yeah, and so I downloaded the Twitter app on my Apple TV, and I'm sitting there. And it was kind of cool that you could watch a game live and then have the Twitter stream there next to it of all the tweets. It was kind of cool.
Oh yeah, that would be neat.
That being said, after about 20 minutes, I realized that I thought, oh, this is really, really cool. But the football was not really holding my interest.
Yeah, it was a pretty rough game. Thursday night games are usually not that great. Usually very low scoring, too. But it was actually ended up being a shootout there at the end.
Even just in general, I don't think I watched a single football game last year. I just, the NFL, I've lost my interest in it. But
That's why you got to play fantasy football.
The Twitter thing was really cool. If Twitter would broadcast maybe more interesting things live and had the Twitter stream, I'd totally be on it. I'm sure there's a lot of people who want to watch football, and so they'll do well, I think.
Yeah, I'd think so. It'd be interesting to see the numbers to see if it was worth what they invested.
I think they had 2 million live views, so pretty good for
Yeah, I was curious how that was going to do. I don't remember how much they paid for it, but I think it was a significant amount.
Yeah, but think how many people probably hadn't been on Twitter in months and came back to watch that.
Yeah, it's true.
And it was weird. I noticed some parts of the game they would show ads, and some parts of the game they would have the ads from TV on there. So I don't know if Twitter was doing some of their own advertising or.
Oh, maybe they were.
And then sometimes it would just be have the NFL logo and be we'll be back soon. So it was odd, but very cool.
Yeah, sounds neat. I think I watched maybe when they were doing all the pregame stuff, and then I went to a real TV and watched it. Because there's no sense in watching it on my phone if I could watch it on the TV.
Well, that's the joy of having the Apple TV hooked up to the...
Yeah. See, I don't have that. I'm not fancy like you.
I'm surprised they don't have it on the PS4 and all that stuff, too.
I think they do.
I say, it seems like that's one of those things. PS4, Xbox One, the Roku, Apple TV, they kind of all get everything.
Yeah. The PS4 just recently added where you can listen to Spotify while you're playing games.
I think it's something like that on the Xbox, too. I think on the Xbox it's...
They've always had music on Xbox, I'm pretty sure. This is the first time they've ever had it on a PlayStation.
Well, there was just an update I did not too long ago where you could do streaming music as a background option.
Was it?
But I think it's Pandora on Xbox One. I don't know. I don't play it enough to justify it. So... Well, I actually have one bit, before we get on our main topic, I want to dive into one bit of follow-up. So,
okay.
Are you ready to start the show?
Start it.
Let's start the show.
Welcome to episode 5 of Tabletop Life.
I'm Matt, joined as always by my awesome co-host, Michael.
Hello.
Today, we're going to be discussing Stone Age. But before we dive in, I have one bit of follow-up from our last episode. How is No Man's Sky holding up for you?
I actually like it.
Because I have read a ton of stuff on the internet about people who are super PO'd about, and I haven't played it, I haven't seen it played in person. I thought it looked really, really cool. All kinds of things I read about how people said there's stuff missing from the game, and it doesn't do what it's supposed to do, and so I wanted a first-hand opinion.
I think a lot of people wanted it to be like an online multiplayer game where people could do this stuff together. And I know I'm not much of a multiplayer guy, so I kind of enjoy it better where I'm just exploring the planets by myself. It does get a little tedious at times. I mean, you're doing the same thing over and over, but what game are you not doing the same thing over and over?
True.
So I kind of liked it. I'm still playing it.
That's cool.
I don't know that there's ever really an end game in the game. I guess it gives you certain achievements to try to acquire throughout the game, like exploring so many planets and learning different words. And that's what I've been playing towards, is completing all of those. And then I try to get like a really big ship in the game because you can sell stuff and barter with different aliens and try to buy their equipment and ships and stuff like that. So I think there's just multiple ways you can play it, and for some people it's just not going to be exciting enough. I mean, you're not shooting, you're not doing a lot of problem solving or anything like that. You're just exploring.
It's interesting. That's one of my favorite aspects of Fallout. Is just the kind of finding new spots and
yeah. Fallout's got the exploration part, but it's also got the first-person shooter, and then your building character and all that. You don't really do that in this game. It's more solely just exploration.
Cool. Very cool. So since you have a PS4 and I'm an Xbox guy, are you planning on buying a virtual reality PS4 thing? I can't remember the name of it is.
I am not.
Oh, I saw it advertised the other day.
If anything, what I'm honestly considering is maybe when they go down in price, buying an Xbox One just so I can get mods for Fallout and Skyrim.
Mm-hmm.
Because they just announced the other day that they're not going to be doing mods on PlayStation.
I saw that. That's kind of crazy.
Yeah, I was pretty bummed.
I wonder what... I mean, I don't get the logic. If Microsoft's already done it, why not?
I don't know.
I did see a thing... This may have been a while back. But they also... I think it was Bungie had said that, like, Destiny cross-platform play, like, between Xbox One and PS4, Microsoft had okayed it. The only holdup was Sony.
Really?
And they were, like, hammering on them to let them do it. So, come on, Sony.
Yeah.
Let us play across platform and let us have mods on Fallout. The other thing we can talk about this week is I have a new phone, and I'm sure you'll have some fun comments on this. I am an iPhone guy, so I have in front of me an iPhone 7, and I really like it.
Do you?
I really do. I got the jet black one. I was lucky. I stayed up, till 3 a.m. because I'm a nerd, and ordered it. And I got the. I don't get the plus because I don't want a flat screen TV size phone in my pocket. I like the smaller one. But I got the jet black, and it's a fingerprint magnet, but man, it's sharp looking.
Is it?
Oh yeah.
Do you not put cases on your phones?
My last one, I didn't put a case on it for like the first year and a half I had it. So far, I've resisted this for like a day, but I can already see I might have to on this one at some point. But guys, it's purty. It's purty. The whole deal with not having a headphone jack, I don't think it's going to be a problem.
Do you not?
I'm interested in the Bluetooth headphones they got coming out. They look pretty slick.
Yeah, it sounds like that I'll have to adjust to those eventually, but for now I enjoy having the jack on the phone.
I keep thinking back, like, I remember when the first iMacs came out, and they didn't have the floppy drives. And I remember everybody, oh, this thing is stupid, no one's going to buy this. It doesn't have a floppy drive, how do you save things? This, it's going to be a complete failure. And then you fast forward a little bit, and we realized, oh crap, USB drives make a lot more sense. And a lot more reliable. And I kind of think that's what's going to be with this. Like, if you've got a bunch of headphones and you use them a lot, it really, really sucks. But there was a lot of people who had a ton of floppy disks, and they saved everything on them. I'm sure it really, really sucked for them, too, until they got their first flash drive, and they're like, holy crap, this is great. I think we're going to see a similar thing. I think Bluetooth headphones will just start to take over now.
I think what's going to hurt a lot of it, I know that we have like a home stereo, and it's got the jack that is plugged directly into the phone, and that's how we listen to music through the stereo, and then there's no Bluetooth on it. So, I mean, that kind of makes all my other stuff obsolete now.
Not necessarily, because I don't know if this exists already. I may be just, unaware. But I don't understand why you couldn't build a 1/8-inch jack that plugs in that has a Bluetooth adapter on the end of it.
I wondered, does that exist?
Yeah, if it doesn't, I'm betting you it's going to come into existence here pretty soon.
Does this make it officially a patent that it was said on the podcast?
Yeah, I mean, timestamp this right now. It's there. We're suing people for copyright.
I'm sure it's already been made.
Yep.
I had an idea last Sunday when I woke up. For some reason, I thought that a good invention would be like a dry erase tape that you could put over top of stuff, and it had the dry erase board on it. And I was like, oh man, that'd be such a good idea. And then, of course, it already exists. But had it not existed, that would have been some good stuff.
It's all been done.
It has. It's been done to death.
So well, I'll let you. If you got any comments on the iPhone, I'll hear them. But
I don't really have many. I don't know. It's everybody likes their own things.
Well, I want to come to that too because I want to be equal here. I'm not an Android guy, but holy crap, the week does not belong to. I mean, the iPhone's getting a lot of the news, but Android phones are exploding.
Yeah, I saw that.
So,
well, just the notes.
Yeah.
I was never a note owner in the first place, so I'm not too concerned about it.
And all jokes aside, and there's been a lot of great ones, I gotta say. It's just like there's been a lot of great iPhone no headphone jack jokes. But that's a serious deal. Like, people can complain about, there's not a headphone jack. But when your phone literally, I saw a photo of a guy who's a construction worker, and it said his phone just started getting hot in his pocket, and he had third-degree burns.
Really?
He had to have a skin graft.
Wow.
On his thigh, yeah, because his phone, he tried to get it out of his pocket, and he burned his fingertips.
Yeah, that's insane.
Yeah. What is wrong with our technology? It's revolting against us. So, I'm hoping they get that sorted out sooner than later for everybody. I saw they're already doing a recall, but they've got people who don't want to bring them in, and it's come on,
yeah.
It's not it's they're going to give you something that's less cool. They're going to give you something that doesn't blow up. That's different.
Yeah. Burn your house down.
Yeah. If Apple emailed me and was like, your new iPhone might explode, bring it in and we'll give you a new one, I'd be like, yeah. Turn the thing off and I take it right in. I'm like, here.
Thank you.
Yeah. I think it's awesome, but I don't want it to blow up on me.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a bad deal. It's
really
a pretty major mistake.
And the worst thing is, across, iPhone or Android or, all three of those Windows Phone users out there, it just looks bad on technology in general. Don't be stupid. Switch out your Samsung phone before it explodes on you.
Yeah, exactly. Just to get it taken care of.
Yeah. It's a minor inconvenience, but blowing off your fingers is probably a larger one. And that's my thought for the week.
Matt's Corner.
I know. We need that little NBC graphic, the more you know, where the star comes across. I think I am out of follow-up things to talk about.
All right, you ready to talk Stone Age?
Let's talk some Stone Age.
Let's do it.
So, this is my first time playing Stone Age, and I really liked it. I wasn't sure at first. I confess, when I first sat down, I saw all the different stuff and the different areas on the board and everything, and my first thought was, I'm going to be really overwhelmed. There's so much stuff to keep track of. And once I kind of got into the flow of it, it was not bad. I acclimated to it much faster than I thought.
Yeah, and it's one of those games that the second playthrough, you'd be a lot more competitive than your first one.
I didn't feel bad about my first playthrough.
No, you did really good.
I felt like I wasn't necessarily going to win, but I didn't feel like I was making stupid mistakes. There's some games they make you feel dumb. Either there's so many rules you just can't keep track of them all, and you're only really following half of the game. But I thought this was a good balance. You you need like maybe one or two turns around the table, and it's very natural. And I didn't feel like I was just making dumb choices. Like I felt like I was making solid choices, very educated. I wasn't guessing like, oh, what does this do? So I was very.
Yeah. And the way the game plays, there's multiple ways to win the game, so that helps. If you mess up on one strategy, there's other strategies you can take to win the game.
Very true. So let's start off here. The game is called Stone Age. It's for 2 to 4 players. The game lasts between 60 to 90 minutes. It's rated for ages 10 and up. And why don't you give us the breakdown, Michael, on the basics of how the game is played?
All right, so in this game, you're going to be collecting resources, you're going to be collecting food, and you're going to try to score more points to win the game. Different ways of scoring points are to buy these tiles that have different point values on them, and you buy those with resources. Or you can buy cards, and some of those have point values on them as well. The game starts out with 6 different resources. There's food, wood, brick, stone, and gold. And the way you start the game out is you get 5 meeples, and you place those on whatever resource you want to acquire. I guess the best way to explain it is you get this little tile in front of you, and each resource has a number associated to it. Food is 2, wood is 3, brick is 4, stone is 5, and gold is 6. So for each meeple that you put on a resource, you will roll 1 dice. You will divide that dice number by the number associated with the resource, and that will be the amount of resources you get. So on a resource like gold that's a number 6, odds are you're not going to roll a 6 with 1 dice. So you'd probably want to put at least 2 or 3 meeples on it, and then hopefully that number is divisible by 6, and you can at least get 1 gold. You'll use each resource, like I said, to buy the different cards on the table, and each one are worth different point values. The ones that involve gold and stone and brick are worth more points because it's harder to acquire. There's also cards on the board that you can use, and those have different multipliers in the game. And those will multiply like the amount of meeples you have by the end of the game, or cards, or things like that. So whenever you first put down people, the board's wide open. You start out with 5 people. Ideally, you'd want to go to either agriculture or a tomahawk. Agriculture will give you 1 food every turn. And there's a little marker here on the board where it starts at 0 and goes all the way up to 10. So if you'd put a guy on agriculture, whenever you remove the guy, you would move up 1, and you'd get 1 food for that turn. You have to have at least 1 food to feed every meeple you have on the board. So starting out, you need to start out the game with 5 food, and that would feed your 5 people. If you can't feed the people at the end of the round, you lose 10 points per person that doesn't get food. You can either get food through agriculture, or you can do farming, or the hunting, and that's divisible by 2. So if you put 2 or 3 guys on there and divided your number by 2, then you get probably enough food to make it through the turn. So early on in the game, it's a real balance between how much food are you acquiring to feed your people, and how much are you going to commit to getting other resources. If you put a guy on the tomahawk, that lets you add 1 number to your dice roll total per round. So if you get 1 tomahawk and I roll a 3, I can add 1 to it, and that would make it a 4. To get more meeples, you can put 2 meeples on a hut. There's a hut icon on here, and that will give you an extra meeple at the end of the round. So the way the game's played is everyone puts their meeples on their resources, and you just go in clockwise order around the board. You can put as many as you want on each resource, but you can only do 1 thing at a time. So let's say I want 3 on brick, that would be mine, and then it'd go to you, and then the next person, and then the next time I could go elsewhere. And then once all the people are on the board, then it goes back around, and we start pulling the people off the board and collecting resources, rolling dice, buying cards, and things like that.
And to note, each resource is finite.
There's 7. There's 7 spots on everything but the hunting grounds.
Say there's 4 of us playing, you've got 5 people. If I put 3 down and Michael puts 4 people down, the other 2 players could not mine for gold that turn.
No, it would be locked out.
Yep. So, and the order in which you go rotates every turn. So everybody gets that first chance to kind of get what they want. So you've really got to plan your strategy out in advance because you never know what's going to be available to you by the time the board gets around to you, except for one turn per, every how many people you have.
Yeah. Ideally, the first turn is usually always agriculture because if you can get your food up where you're just automatically getting the food at every turn or at the end of every round, then that helps. You don't have to worry about hunting later in the game, and you're just worried about collecting resources and points later in the game. The other strategy, we were talking about the different strategies in the game. So you buy your cards with each different, or I guess they're tiles, and they have different point values on them. That's one way, and everyone will be doing that throughout the game to acquire the points. Another way to get points in the game is to buy these cards, and each one at the bottom is worth an in-game bonus. And it either will have a bonus for the amount of hut tiles that you've bought, the amount of meeples you have, the amount of tomahawks you have, or there's some that are like green and have little icons on it, and each one of those is worth 5 points. So let's say I deal this out, and I've got the cards laying out in front of me, and there's one that says it's a meeple times 1. So at the end of the game, I would use that, and I would times the amount of meeples I have by 1, and then that would be bonus points for the game. The more of that specific type of cards you get, it all adds on top of each other. So I think in the game we played, I had like an 8 times 10 or something like that. I think I ended up having like an 8 times bonus on meeples, and I had 10 meeples by the end of the game, and I ended up getting 80 bonus. So you really want to concentrate on one specific type of bonus to win the game. You can go through all of them, but if you really want to maximize, you want to get your multiplier up, and then whatever that resource is, you want to try to get a lot of those by the end of the game.
Yeah, you're gonna have a much more difficult time if you try to spread yourself out because you just get spread too thin, and you end up with a little bit of everything but nothing of substance.
Exactly.
We ran into that when I played. Being a first timer, I wasn't keen to all this, and I made exactly that mistake. I had a little bit of everything, but nothing that was really through the roof, and nothing that can compete with that 80-point bonus.
Yeah. And the way the cards work out is that you deal 4 down on the table, and there's a spot for them on the board, which the board looks, I think it looks really good. It's got good artwork. It looks like a bunch of cavemen in the world, and each spot on the map is themed to what resource it's getting.
I totally agree, though. The art is fantastic.
So it's got the 4 spots on the boards for the cards, and in order they go 1, 2, 3, and 4 resources you can trade in to buy that card. If someone would buy one of the resources, let's say I buy the top card with 1 resource, which it can be any resource I choose but food. So it's usually wood because that's the easiest resource to acquire. I'd buy it with 1 lumber, and then once we all pull our people off the boards, those cards will all slide down, and we'll draw a new card into the deck, and that would take the place of the 4 resources, and the other 3 would move down 1 resource apiece. It works out really well. The way the board's laid out makes the game play very smooth.
Yeah.
The board really explains everything you need to explain.
There is a spot for everything and a place to put everything on your board, your tile itself. It's very well thought out. Because at first I saw this, there's people, there's cards, there's tiles and dice, and being a complete newbie, I was like, oh crap. I expected to be overwhelmed, and I was very, very impressed with how streamlined everything is. When you draw a tile and you put it, there's spots on your personal card to store your tiles. There's a place to put the cards that you buy. Your people have a spot, like a little campfire, to sit around while they're waiting to be distributed. Again, just a spot for everything. It's great planning.
The way the board is laid out, and then like you said, each person, I didn't mention this, but each person has an individual board in front of them, a smaller board that you put all your tiles, your cards, your people, and your tomahawks on. And then it also gives your score breakdowns. It says what everything's value it is, what everything's divided by, and things like that.
And while we're discussing the aesthetics of the game, I would be remiss to not mention the cup. I was super impressed with. There's like a little a cup's the best way to describe it with the game that you can use to roll your dice in if you want, and it's like a faux kind of leather. I mean, I think it is.
I think it is
real
leather.
Oh, well,
it smells like real leather.
Yeah. It's totally like authentic.
It really brings the theme of the game into it.
Yeah, I mean, major props to Z-Man Games. They could have cheaped out on this. It could have been like a solo cup with like a little wrap around it, but no, they went all out. It definitely
even the dice even look. I mean, they're wooden dice, and it's made to look primitive.
I said they did an excellent job with it, above and beyond.
The game brings a good mix of strategy and luck to bring the game together. I would say it leans more heavily on strategy than luck to win.
I'd agree with that.
I mean, the luck is really down to only the dice roll and what resources you get. Your strategy involves in where you're putting your meeples, what resources you're collecting, and then what cards and tiles you're buying throughout the game.
I think, unless you are the just unluckiest dice roller in the world, and you roll like 1s and 2s every time, you're going to get enough resources that if you strategize decently well, you'll be in the game. I mean, you may not win, but you won't be like just blown out. Because you can sit there and kind of, you see the card. And that's another thing about the cards where they kind of shuffle down when one's played, that you can see what all the costs of them are. So you may have a card that is very resource expensive to buy that after a couple other cards are purchased gets cheaper. And then it's that race. Like if you're the first, if it's your turn to go first, you can buy a card very inexpensively that just a few rounds ago was much more expensive.
Yeah, and the fact that you can buy it with any resource that adds a little strategy to it as well.
So it's all resource management, like Michael was talking about with the wood. You can stock up on wood and just kind of have it as something to purchase things like that with when you get a chance, and that really plays into what you were talking about with the food as well. Once you can offset your food and become neutral, you have so much more flexibility in what you're going to do every turn once you're not trying to just feed your people.
Yeah, you're not committing meeples to feed. I mean, you can go straight to resources and not even worry about hunting for food.
And that has a big impact on how much you expand your tribe, too. Mm-hmm. Like, if you expand really, really fast, you have to be prepared for that, or else you'll just spend the whole game just trying to feed yourself and you'll break even.
The cards, not only do they have in-game bonuses, but each card also has a resource on it as well. Some of them might say be worth food. Some of them might have stone, brick, gold, all that. Some of them might say just to draw another card, and you keep that and do what it says. And then others of them have 6 different types of resources. It'll have wood, brick, stone, gold, a tomahawk, and an agriculture on it. And then you would roll a dice for each person that's playing the game, and then going around clockwise, each person would choose which resource they want depending on the dice roll. So let's say I rolled a 6, 4, and a 1. The resources available would be agriculture, gold, and a lumber. I would probably take the agriculture early because I need it, and then I'd pass it around. The second person would obviously take the gold because it's a harder resources to get, and then the last person would get stuck with the lumber with the dice roll. So getting cards is very important to building your point value and getting resources or getting your bonuses for the end. And then as far as tiles go, you get one stack of 7 tiles per person that plays in the game. So when we played, we had 3 stacks of 7, and whenever you buy one of the home tiles, when that's taken away, the next one below it's flipped over, and then as soon as an entire pile is bought out, that is when the game ends. So if you're getting towards the end of the game, just because you put a meeple on one of these things to buy it doesn't mean you have to take it. So let's say that I'm down 20 points, and I know that you're going to end the game. I could go ahead and block and put a person on one of these home tiles, and even though I don't have the stuff to buy it, I would just take the person off, and that it would move on to the next round. It might buy yourself an extra round.
And the flip side of that is that if we're getting close to the end of the game and I have a little bit of a lead, I can escalate by always drawing tiles in the same pile to push us toward the end of the game faster and not give you a chance to catch up.
Yeah. I mean, realistically, the game can end in 7 rounds. If you just bought from one stack every round, the game would be over. So the game can be really fast, or it can take really long if nobody's buying home tiles. If you never end a pile, the game can also be ended by running out of cards for the draw deck. Once the cards run out, then that also ends the game. and there's quite a few cards, so that can take a while if you play that strategy and no one's buying the home tiles.
Yeah, I must think that there's so many cards that would be a very rare occurrence.
It's happened twice, actually.
Really?
They were very high-scoring games, and they all took like 2 hours, but it did happen.
Wow.
And I think that just got where everybody at the table knew that everybody was building a lot of bonus points, and we knew that if we didn't get them while we could, that we were going to lose the game. So it ended up being a race where every round all 4 cards get bought off the table.
And that's one thing I really enjoyed is, we played and it was kind of a middle of the road. Like, it wasn't extremely high scoring. It wasn't super fast. It was a nice mix, I feel. And I think that playing again, how you could change your strategy and it would really change the game. Like, again, one of those long, drawn-out, high-scoring games is going to be a completely different experience than someone just trying to get ahead and end the game quickly.
Yep.
I think that's very cool. It's a lot. It shows a lot of flexibility in the design of the game.
Yeah, people are going to want to stick to their strategy, but if you see that someone's taking that strategy and just buying out a tile stack, then you need to adapt your strategy to compete.
Yeah, because you won't. If that's what I'm going for, if I'm like, man, 7 rounds and we're done, and I'm just trying to get out to a lead and get it, in the game before Michael can catch up, he can build all the bonuses he wants, but he'll never get enough bonuses built up to overtake me. So and that's cool that the game is, I use this a lot, but it's accessible in that regard. Like, nothing is super hard to figure out. The strategies, like, you have to kind of know a little bit of each strategy because you never know what you're gonna be up against. I just kind of played through in our game a very middle of the road strategy, and I thought I did okay. I wasn't near the winning scores, but I also wasn't at nothing.
No. You
And
competed more in this than you did in Takanoko.
yeah, well,
So you definitely, I would think that this is more of a complex game than Takanoko. But
Yeah.
you seem to pick it up a lot easier, and maybe that's because of how well designed the board is and the cards and everything.
yeah, I think so. Like, again, the design of Stone Age is fantastic. Like, I know I said this earlier, but everything, like, the designers, hats off, because they thought of all these situations and what would happen if player A did this and player B did this, and where they're going to put these and store that, and there are no questions. Like, they've thought of everything, it feels like, and you appreciate that. When you're playing through the game, you really all the polishing on it, and they thought of this and compensated for it, and because nothing's more frustrating than getting through a game and, for lack of a better term, you break the game because you think of something that designers didn't. Yes. And it's like, now what? Now what do we do? Nothing's more frustrating than that. So, a very well-designed game where they've, pretty much thought it all out, and you don't have to worry about that. Extra points in my book.
I have seen one strategy online where people have tried to starve their people. But I feel like if you don't have the resources to feed somebody, then you pay what resources, like other resources, to accommodate for the food. So let's say I don't have 5 food, so I would pay 5 brick or 5 wood or something like that, or a combination of all the resources. So I've seen some people say they starve the people and they lose the 10 points, but then they try to get enough points otherwise to cover up the loss. And that might work, but I've tried it and it failed pretty miserably.
Yeah, it seems like that would be hard. That food penalty is pretty stiff. I'm not saying it can't be done, but it's a very bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see how it works out for them.
It did not work out well. So that's pretty much the game.
Yeah, I definitely I recommend it. As a newbie, I think it was really fun to play. I look forward to playing it again. I think it's one of those that I would add to the staple. Like Ticket to Ride, and you can just sit down and play it, and you get some, an hour or two to kill. It's fun.
Yeah, it's a good group game, and usually you can find it pretty affordable online. It looks like it's pretty steep right now, but I believe it's part of a sale on Amazon. But I think normally it's usually around $30 or $40 to buy it, and I think we've played it quite a few times, and I think it's well worth the money. There's some games I have that we've only played 2 or 3 times, didn't really get into, and probably didn't get our money's worth. This one is not one of those.
Yeah, it looks like the suggested price is like $50, so you're just going to find it a little bit cheaper than that.
I see there's also a beginner version of this game called My First Stone Age that looks like it might be more for children. So I might have to pick that up in the next few years once my son gets old enough to play, and we'll get to see how that plays out with him.
Yeah, it looks like My First Stone Age is ages 5 and up.
Yeah, and it's only a 15-minute game.
Interesting.
So that might be entertaining to play once we get some younger kids to play.
Yeah.
So, what else has been going on, Matt?
We're a little late on this podcast. I've just been busy at work, really.
We're pretty close to we usually do it about the second week of every month, it seems like.
Yeah.
So
We're teetering on the third week, though, so.
Yeah.
But I will say, we have some exciting news. Hopefully next month, what we're planning on is doing our first live podcast. Michael had asked for this capability a little while back, and so I think we've got it all sorted out. We'll post some information to the Tabletop Life podcast website and on Twitter, and I'm sure Instagram once we get a date and time hammered out. But going forward, that'll probably be the new normals. We'll live broadcast and then follow up with the links afterwards, the downloadable version.
And then hopefully in time we'll be able to add video streaming, and we'll actually be able to play some of these games live as we talk about them.
We will get one nice thing about doing the live broadcast is that will let us hopefully be on more of a schedule. We'll still hammer all that stuff out, but because we can always do the edited version after the fact.
Yeah.
So you won't have to wait for your Tabletop Life goodness.
Try to get them a little bit closer together at least.
Yeah. So, Michael, with all that taken care of, what are we going to play for this next initial live episode?
Well, I think I let you decide it for this time, didn't I?
You did.
And I believe you decided on Sushi Party Go.
I did.
The game we picked up at Gen Con this year.
I'm really looking forward to it.
It's a lot of fun. It'll be fun to talk about.
It will be.
I think it'll be an easy game to talk about. It should be. I highly suggest it. I really do. I know it's not the show yet, but it's been a lot of fun. The games we've played have been a blast.
Well, there we go. You don't even need to listen next time. You're done.
Yep, there you go.
Episode 6 in the books, and it was 10 seconds long.
Done. See, now we're getting on schedule. That's what you wanted. You wanted to be on schedule, and now we're getting on schedule.
Now we're ahead of the time. See you guys in October or November.
From now on, the show's going to be yes or no, and that's it.
We're gonna
30 to 45 seconds, and when we're out.
We could invent a whole new format here. Well, while you're waiting for our next episode, feel free to follow us on Twitter, on Instagram, at Tabletop Life, or visit the website, www.tabletopLifepodcast.com. You can always find the podcast on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, and we'll also post a version to YouTube. It's not live video or anything, but we'll put some graphics in it from the game that we played. Now, with that being said, I think we've covered it all.
Yeah, I think that was it.
All right. Until next time, game over.
See ya.